I'm not a youngster, so every 3 months I have a blood pressure monitor. I take my blood pressure, and if I'm over 140 over 80, then I cycle that bit harder and that bit further to try and get myself fit. So my question is, where is the blood pressure meter for the soil? That is the question that we're going to ask today, and see if we can put together some various tests that would help us to achieve that. Now there's a gentleman called Hans Rosling. Some of you may know him. He's a statistician and a communicator. And he had this great phrase, less word, more Excel. So today we want to have a little bit less word and a little bit more Excel. So we now want to start looking under the soil to be able to produce some simple tools that our farmers can use so that they can monitor what's happening under the ground. Now, my exposure to farming began, believe it or not, as a teenager in 1957 on a small farm in the Peak District. And I remember the farmer there. He was an orphan from Edale, and he was the first farmer who moved from having a horse to having a tractor. And over the years, I watched how farming's changed and this obsession that has come about with technology largely fueled by industrial interests and by politicians. And I see this is reflected in the attitude to the soil. Soil, I feel, has changed. That nowadays, it is, take the analogy of the child, the trend is to give the soil sweets and to give it an iPhone, to keep it quiet rather than to listen to it, hugging it, telling it stories and nurturing it. And this graph is, I'm not going to show very much, but this I find amazing. This is 1947 to 2000. This is all the technology that's come into farming over the years. This is gross farm income. This is net farm income. So all this technology has increased output, but farmers' income has gone down, and all of that money, or most of that money, has come down to the guys down here. So this is what I prefer. This is the more natural system, all the natural cycles of water and carbon dioxide and nitrogen and so on. But the trouble with that, of course, that gives you a fuzzy feeling, but it's too much word and not enough Excel. Now, we don't want to be simplistic. Soil is complex. Some of the phrases I heard: soil is a community of organisms with relationships with plant growth. Soil has personality, it's constantly changing. Every important activity takes place at less than 50 microns. It's a community. Imagine what happens when you plough up a community. So, are there some characteristics that can be measured and monitored? Take biodiversity. John T. Brunye's farm has 100 species on it. Surely that has some impact on the soil? Can we measure that? Can we find some relationship? If we can measure the respiration of the soil, can we interpret that in a way that we can use in our farming? Now, Ben Mead also, actually, what he meant when he said, was there a rising plate meter, was not, are there any simple tools, although he recognised that was important, but can we actually use this to measure, after you've mob grazed, to measure what's left, and can we use that knowledge to interpret what's going to happen under the soil in the building of organic matter? So, aim today is to bring all your good people together and to look at some of the options, by no means all, and bringing together scientists and farmers. We want to spark exchanges, increase awareness, and raise the profile of this issue. How do we monitor what's going on under the soil?